Good day, Grade 12 learners, and welcome to today's English First Additional Language lesson. My name is Elizabeth Meyer, and this lesson is brought to you by the Gauteng Department of Education in collaboration with Sybona Discovery Centre. It's wonderful to see you, and welcome back. You've already written your first paper, and I'm sure it went well. So let's prepare for a second one for today. You're writing on Monday, which gives you ample time to study. So, are you ready for paper one? Let's do this. You know your paper consists out of 80 marks for 2 hours. Are you worried that you don't have enough time? I promise you, you have enough time. But you have to manage it quite well. So let's unpack your paper one. Your section A is your question 1, your comprehension for 30 marks. Your question 2 will cover your summary for 20 marks, and your section C covers 40 marks for language. This section is divided into your advertisement, question 3, your cartoon, question 4, and question 5, language. Now, I need you to focus on a few important things that I need you to do when we start. You will have 10 minutes reading time. It is extremely important that you use your time effectively. Read the comprehension. Read the summary. Study the advertisement and enjoy that cartoon. Please make sure that you use your 10 minutes. That means you can't be late for your exam. Otherwise, when you're locked out, you can't read. So please make sure that you're there on time, that you can use your 10 minutes reading time. And that's exactly where you need to start. I told you you've got 80 marks for 2 hours. But how do you manage it? Now, I think this will be the best advice ever. I really don't want you to start with the comprehension first. Yes, I know it's question 1, but nowhere in the instructions does it say that you have to start with question 1. It just says answer all the questions. So may I suggest that you do start with a summary first. It's the easiest part of the paper and a place where you really can score big marks. So please start with the summary first. Remember, comprehension is quite difficult. And if you get stuck there, you might not end up doing your question 5. So, let's start with the summary. You are allowed 30 minutes for your summary, which means if we start at 9 o'clock, by 9:30, you should be done with the summary. So manage your time that you're able to finish by 9:30. After the summary, I do suggest that you move over to section C. That is 40 minutes. Now in this section, remember you have to do the advertisement, the cartoon, and the language. So you have to divide your time between those 3 questions. Now that's another 40 minutes. So if we started with a summary at 9:30 and we go on to section C, that will take us up to 10:10. That's why I'm saying you really need to manage your time. Watch the clock. Doesn't mean you have to get stressed about it. I'm just saying manage your time. And then finally, you've got 50 minutes left to do your comprehension. So if we start by 10:10, we will end up perfectly at 11 o'clock. Now, obviously, When you do the summary faster or the section C faster, then you'll have more time for the comprehension. But don't rush it. Make sure you answer all the questions. If it happens that you struggle with a question and you don't know how to answer, just leave an open space, but make sure after you've written that you go back and finish those questions you've left out. So, in today's presentation, I am then going to start with the summary and not the comprehension, because I really do think summary is the easiest way to start it. So what do we start with? You know that to summarize means to take a big text and just focus then on the main points or summarize the main ideas. Now, in your question paper, there will be very clear instructions as to exactly what you need to summarize. So let's look at these instructions step by step. Your summary must be written in point form. That means not a paragraph. Home languages do paragraphs. We in English do point form. The second instruction reads, list your 7 points in full sentences using no more than 70 words. So we're looking for 7 facts. Full sentences, which means every sentence must have a verb. No more than 70 words. So let's stop there for a moment. What happens if I go over my 70 words? Well, unfortunately, the marker is not going to mark it. Markers are instructed to count the number of words. So which means you need to count your words as well. Can I write less than 70 words? Yes, by all means. But you have 70 words. So it's no use only give us 20 words. Then you're shooting yourself in the foot. So play around a bit. You need up to 70 words. And yes, we do count, I promise you. Number your sentences from 1 to 7. So you can't do bullets or little hearts, numbers. That's what we're looking for, underneath each other. Write 1 point per sentence. That means 1 fact per sentence. Should you include 2 facts per sentence, we will only mark the first one. Unfortunately, if the first one is incorrect, we're not even going to look at the second one. So make sure the facts that you write down are the right ones. And this is a tricky one. Use your own words as far as possible. As far as possible. And we'll come back to that one. Now, these instructions can be used as a checklist. So when you're done with your summary, use the instructions as a tick list and literally tick next to it each thing to check that you have done everything correctly. Lastly, remember that you have to count your words and write the number at the end in brackets. And don't lie. You need to count. Right. So how do I put the instructions into practice? Let me show you. First one, identify what you must summarize. We will never ask you to summarize the whole text. We'll give you a clear instruction as to what exactly we are looking for. Are we looking for the 7 benefits to stay healthy? Or are we looking for the 7 ways to lose weight? Whichever it is, we will give you a clear instruction. So make sure you use your highlighted and underline or highlight it on your question paper. That question paper belongs to you and you are allowed to use highlighters on your question paper, not in your answer book. Now, write in bold, big letters, the top of your planning, exactly what you need to summarize. Why? because this will help you to keep it in mind the whole time. Read the topic before you read each sentence to remain focused. I really need you to keep focused on the topic that you need to summarize. If you're going to do a draft, remember you need to draw a line through your draft. Make sure I can see very clearly what is a draft and what is the final. So there are 5 steps to summarizing a text, and I'm sure you know it, but let's run through them once again. The first one is to delete. So what you're going to delete, we'll see just now. Second step, keep. Delete, keep. On step number 3, you're going to substitute. And step number 4, you're going to list. And step number 5 is to write. Sounds easy, doesn't it? So, first step, when we delete everything that's not relevant to our topic. How do you do it? You take your pen or your pencil or whatever you're going to use, and you read every single sentence of the text given to you. And if it's not relevant on, for instance, how to start exercising, you delete it. You draw a line through it. As easy as that. So that you are left with only the sentences you want to keep. Read through your passage again to make sure the sentences that you have left over are the ones that you want to keep. Now you have to figure out how you're going to change it into your own words. Maybe you can use a synonym where possible. Maybe you can change the tense of a sentence. But you have to find a way to write it in your own words. Be careful that you don't change the meaning though. So when you're done with all of this is not the time to start writing it in a list. In other words, you write it down underneath each other. Yes, and it must be numbered from 1 to 7. And then finally, you write a final. And make sure you draw a line through your draft. Can you see how easy this is? You can't get it wrong, I promise you. So, let's go through the quick tips once again. Always refer to instruction. You need to know exactly what is expected of you, and they will tell you exactly what they want. Use a highlighter or a pen to delete the sentences that don't fit your instruction. And I've said it again, you can use your question paper. It's yours. So please make sure you use it. Oh, those 70 words, so you have to count your words. You will not be allowed to take your calculator in with you, but I'm sure you can count up to 70. Now, let's focus on some techniques to help you to put sentences in your own words. So one way is to put it into the passive voice. We've got a sentence in the active voice, just rewrite it in the passive voice. We've talked about synonyms that you can use. You can change the tense. This is the best one ever. For instance, if a sentence is in the present tense, you change it to the past tense. If it's in the past tense, change it to the present tense. Start your sentence with a verb, especially if it's an instruction of how to eat better. Then start your instruction with a verb. In that case, you are ensuring that you're not copying verbatim. Verbatim means word for word. And lastly, yes, you still need to count those words. So that's a summary, done and dusted. Remember, you've got 30 minutes to make sure you get your summary done. But I'm sure with all these tips, it's going to be a breeze. So let's move over to question 3. We started with a summary, and now it's the advertisement for 10 marks. I'm sure you know the aim of advertisements. You've been working with them for so long. And by now, you are now a critical reader of advertisements. But let me remind you again of the AIDA principles. Attention. Yes. The first thing they want is to grab your attention. That's the most important thing for any company. Because if I got your attention, then obviously you'll probably read further. So they will do anything they can to make sure they got your attention. You have to figure out how did they get my attention. The next one is interest. Now, interest means you're curious. You want to know more about the product. They got your attention, but now you want to know more. And this is called the interest part. Then they create a desire. This is where they tell you that you can't live without this product. You really need this product. Huh? And you probably think you do. Lastly, action. Action is where you decide to buy the product. And who's smiling? Obviously the company. They're so happy that you have bought it. So they're going to put all these 4 steps in place to make sure you buy it. But be careful. Not all advertisements are selling products. They might be selling a service. So just be careful for that. It is really important that you are able to understand the terminology that we're going to use in your question paper with regard to advertisements. So on the screen now, you'll see an advertisement and there's a lot of lines there with no words. I wonder if you are able to fill in the words that are missing. Can you? Now let's look at it quickly. It says, reach for a dream, making dreams come true for children with life-threatening illnesses. And then there's a lot of text. Now if you have a number and a website, it seems. Yes, let's see. So I'm sure by now you know exactly what the terminology is I'm going to refer to. And let me remind you once again. Headline. That's usually on the top of your text and probably in the biggest, boldest letters ever. This will grab your attention first. Now this is called the headline. You need to make sure, if in the exam we refer to the headline, that you know exactly where your headline is. Underneath the text is what we call the copy text. It's a small print that includes a lot of information. Facts, figures, statistics, adjectives, everything they want to sell their product. Usually we type this over for you if it's not clear in your advertisement. That's called the copy text. And right at the bottom, I'm sure you're able to see that, is your website. And it's an obvious question that we can ask you. Why would a company include a website address? Well, it's easy. 1, so that you can contact them. 2, get more information. 3, to complain. What you think about that? Maybe 4, to find the address of the company or where the nearest store is, or in this case, where you'll be able to assist them. So that might be one of the questions we can ask you. Now, when you look closer to your screen, you'll see there are some words written in bold. The moment we write words in bold, we emphasize it. So be on the watch out for that. Look very carefully at what type of words they are using. Are they persuading us? Or are they playing on our emotions? Most probably. In this case, they've included images of kids. Why would they want to include images of kids? Why? Because it's children with life-threatening illnesses. You always have to find that connection between the picture and the words. That's really important. And it's the same for your cartoon as well. These two can't work without each other. Font. Font refers to the way the words are printed. Are they written in bold letters? Are some of them bigger than others? Are some of them in italics? Now, if you just look here, it says dreams is in italics, and we've got true that's bolded there. You see? That's obviously important. And then your slogan, reach for a dream. Slogan is a little phrase that gets stuck in your head forever. And lastly, oh, I'm sure you got it right, that's the logo. So please make sure you are familiar with the terminology used in advertisements. So I love this guy, but this is exactly how you should feel when you look at advertisements. What is the first thing I saw? What grabbed my attention? So before you go into the questions, immediately look at the advertisement and figure out what is the first thing I saw. Did I see the visuals? Is that what caught my eye? Because there's a celebrity perhaps? Or there's something weird like this guy with the big eyes? Or is it the words? Are the words in different fonts? Is there a catchy phrase that caught my attention? You have to know exactly what caught your attention and why. And this is really important. Always pretend the person marking your paper can't see what you see. You need to tell us everything in detail. Don't think because we can see the same picture, we see what you see. No, we don't. Tell us everything. Oh, wow. Look at this wonderful advertisement. I'm sure the first thing you saw was this lady with lemons literally splashing away from her. And only then you will go and read the words. It says Nature's Carnival. Let's look at another one. If you've looked at the visuals, obviously the next thing is to read the copy text. Can you remember what the copy text is? It's that small print. I need you here to focus on the words that are used. Do the words create some kind of emotion with you? Are the scientific words used or are statistics used? And what is that connection that you find between the words and the picture? So you have to become really critical reader to look at exactly how the two fits together. Because visuals and words is like a puzzle. You can't have the one without the other. So let's look at this one. There's a star. Doesn't mean anything, it doesn't look very happy. And then it says somebody had to do it. And I'm sure your first question is, what does somebody have to do? And obviously that's grabbed your attention and obviously your interest, and now you want to read further. Now I know it's not visible on your screen. I've done that on purpose because I want to create your interest so that you want to go on and see, what is it all about? Are you curious? Let me show you. So here it is. Now I need you to look at the type of words they've used. Somebody had to do it. It's the new big boy in town, the super heavyweight beast burger at Dallas. A whopping 500 grams of char-grilled prime beef stacked with bacon, tomatoes, lettuce, pickles, and mayonnaise, served on an enormous 9-inch sesame seed bun. So here's the big challenge. If you can finish a mighty beast burger on your own in less than 30 minutes and turn your plate upside down, it's on the house. Wow. Can you imagine how big this thing must be if it will take you 30 minutes to complete it? And that's a challenge. Now look at the words that you used here. They're very clever. Big boy. Super heavyweight beast. Whopping. enormous. Can you see all these words are related to being big? There's a big challenge as well. And you have a mighty beast burger. And just by using this type of words, immediately there's an emotional reaction here. Because I'm sure I am salivating here, thinking about this burger. But immediately you can realize how big this burger is going to be just by using certain words. And you have to look very carefully at those words. So what are the typical questions we love asking you in the exam? I brought a nice advertisement from Mr. M. Obviously, I'm hungry because I've got all these advertisements related to food. It says, get nutty. And this is obviously a play on words here. Enter for a chance to win. Have you tried strawberry nut, coffee nut, almond, and peanut? And you can see Mr. M there is standing with his little selfie stick taking a photo. So keeping this in mind, what are the questions we love asking you? Who's the advertiser? Okay, that's easy. What's the product? M&M's. Who's the target audience? We'll come back to this one. This might be a tricky one. Let's see which another one. Identify the logo and the slogan. All right, that's easy. What visuals are used? Now, if you get a question like this is where you need to tell me exactly what you see. Like you seeing Mr. M standing here with a selfie stick, taking a photo, holding the M&Ms. The idea is obviously that you have to do exactly the same to stand a chance to win. Right. What persuasive language is used? Well, obviously a chance to win. We all want to win something. And get nutty really grabs the attention, doesn't it? Oh, look at this one. Oh, isn't this beautiful? This is a new Kit Kat ice cream, it says. But can you see? It's like the Kit Kat chocolate is now turned into fingers holding onto this ice cream. Unbelievable, isn't it? So in this case, I've taken out the words, but there must have been a link between the words and the visual. You always need to find that link. Look at the contact details. Do we include any social media logos for you? Remember, we're in the fourth industrial revolution, so we're looking at things like that. And obviously, how can we get more information about this product? So these are just types of questions we love asking you. Do you remember that question about the target audience? Let's quickly go back to that. So target audience is who is going to buy this. Who's going to put this product in their trolley? That's what you need to think about. But you can't say people. And you see my people, they are not happy. You can't say people. Because not everybody loves M&M's or everybody likes Kit Kat ice creams. So you can't just say people. You have to be very specific for us. Easy way? People who like chocolates. And then you've got it. So in the exam, always start your target audience with people who like and give you the product. It's as easy as that. I shouldn't have told you that, should I? Now, logos and slogans. I'm sure you know them by now. But just to remind you, there are quite a number of them. Now, obviously, we're just not going to ask you just to identify the logo and the slogan. That's really too easy. Let's level it up a little bit. We might ask you in the exam, let me just go back there. We might ask you in the exam, how does this logo or the slogan fit in with the advertisement? In other words, what's the connection between the logo and the slogan and the advertisement? So, for instance, if you have, let's do the famous Nike, just do it. Obviously, it's about starting now, doing it now. So you have to make that link between the logo and the slogan with your advertisement. So not only are you looking at the words and the pictures, but you're also making the connection between the logo and the slogan. Let's look at one. This is my favorite question, and we love asking you this in exam. Look at this brilliant advertisement. I really found this is absolutely brilliant. It's a McDonald's, obviously, but look at the line. It's headline. How did you read that? The first time I read it, it says, I am hungry. But it's actually a 1, it's not an I, is it? It's 1 a.m. hungry. Can you see how brilliant that is? Now, obviously, if you read further, you can see here it says over 350 restaurants open 24 hours. So if you are hungry at 1 a.m., this is a place to go to. Or whether you are just hungry, this is a place to go to. Now, in exam, we love asking you the question, is this message of the advertisement effective? Discuss your answer. Well, this can be up to 3 marks, 2 to 3 marks. And how do you answer a question like that? So let me help you. First thing you need to do, as I've said many times, look at your advertisement. You really have to look at it to know what's going on there. Then you need to tell me whether you agree or disagree with the statement. Do you think the message is effective or not? Well, usually it is, but you can't say no. Well, you have to have quite good reasons for that. Now, how do you answer it? The first thing I want you to do is to refer me to the images or the pictures. Now, in this case, we see a McDonald's. This is obviously at a McDonald's, you'll see this McDonald's sign, and it's big. It covers the whole advertisement, or most of it. So we've got this big McDonald's sign to emphasize it's McDonald's. And then the words. And now you can explain to me that you read. It's either I am hungry or 1 a.m. hungry. So we discuss the words, how clear the use of that, and why have they used it like that. And then we go to the words further, because remember, it's not only I am hungry, you've got the other words at the bottom as well. Over 350 restaurants. So there is so many restaurants to visit. 24 hours. So anytime, day or night, you can just pop in there and go for McDonald's. That's amazing. And the message is then, McDonald's is there for you whenever you're hungry. Right. Can you see how easy it is to answer a question like this? I bet you if you use my steps, you can't go wrong. I hope you feel more comfortable with your advertisement. Let's go to your cartoons. So cartoons and advertisements work on the same basis. There's pictures, there's words. Now again, let's start with terminology of cartoons. In other words, words that we will use in the exam that you need to know about. Now the first one is a setting. A setting is where and when does a scene take place. This is the same in your literature when we ask the setting. When and where is it taking place? Facial expression. Please never use the word facial expression just like that. I really need you to concentrate on everything on this face. The eyes, the mouth, everything in detail. Body language. Now, body language refers to verbal clues. Verbal clues refers to words. Verbal, because verbal, we speak verbal words. And visual clues is all about the pictures. Now, these two words are probably the most important that you're going to have to use in a cartoon. Verbal and visual. And you have to know the difference. So, I've got a nice cartoon for you there. Yes, I know it's not quite clear. I did it on purpose once again, because I'm going to focus on very specific things. Now, just to give you an idea of what's happening here, we've got Calvin. Calvin is a really naughty boy, and he's in his house, and he has kept a piece of ice for 3 months in the refrigerator so that he can throw Susie with it. And then if you look further, you'll see he finds Susie outside, and he is now just ready to throw Susie with this piece of snow. And obviously, he throws it and he misses. It is so funny. And he's so extremely frustrated. And why he keeps on going on about how frustrated he is, you know what Susie does? She gathers all the snow together, makes a nice ball of snow, and throws Calvin. And this is what it's all about. Now, I want to show you detail that I need you to pick up on. Now, let's look at your pictures first. Visual clues. Remember, pictures are your visual clues. So, when you study for cartoons, before, again, you jump into the questions, always start with the basics. Find the setting. Where is this taking place? And how do you know? Now, in this case, it's easy. We can see that they're outside. Susie seems to be sitting on the sidewalk or somewhere in the garden. Our characters are obviously Susie and Calvin, for that matter. And let's look at their body language and their facial expressions. Now, this is so gorgeous. Now, you can, if you look at the middle one, that's my favorite one, because you can really see how frustrated Calvin is when he misses Susie. I mean, he's keeping the snowball for 3 months in the refrigerator. Now he misses. It's all the fun is now gone. You can see, and look at the facial expression. She's like completely confused. What's happening around here? She doesn't know what's happening. But you need to look at your characters. Look at their body language, where their arms are. Look at Calvin's hands on the last frame. Over his eyes, he's covering eyes because he's so frustrated at what's happening. Here's another one for you. The guy in the cartoon is called Jeremy. Can't remember what his girlfriend's name is. So the girl says, "A C? I got a C? That's not fair. I haven't missed a single class, so I deserve an A." And Jeremy says, "I can't tell if you're serious. If you ask me, A should stand for attendance." So she believes, obviously, just because she was in class, every single class, she should get an A for attendance. Right. Again, look at the body language. Look at the middle frame. Look how she's pointing to herself. Look at the first frame where she's leaning forward. Oh, Shannon, look at the last frame. You can just see she's despondent. Right. So, but you have to tell me the detail. Focus on what you see. Pretend that I can't see what you see. So, we focus on the pictures. Let's see what's next. Our next one will probably be our verbal clues. Before I go to them, let me quickly show you, looking at this cartoon. Can you see there's some words that placed in bold? It's really important that you notice that some words are in bold for a reason. So in this case, the cartoonist has decided to emphasize these words, these letters. So the C and the A is in inverted commas 1, and 2, it's in bold. But look at the punctuation for me here as well. We have in the first frame, she says, "A C? I got a C?" And there's literally 2 question marks there. That's not fair! Exclamation mark. Remember, a cartoonist can't use sound effects in his cartoon. It would be lovely to hear sound effects in a cartoon. So what he has to do, he has to play with punctuation. So let's look at our next one, the verbal clues. Now let's go back to Calvin and Susie, what they're doing. Now remember, words is all about the font, capital letters, punctuation, as I showed you, and the words. Now look at the first frame there. Hey, Susie. Susie has 2 exclamation marks. It's in bold. It's in capital letters. And do you recognize this? Ha! Now, this is a very specific bubble that's being used here. It's not your normal speech bubble, is it? No, hell no. It is, yes, you're right, a bubble to scream, to show our character is screaming. Now, look at the next frame. I missed. Can you see miss is in bigger letter? It's slightly italic, slanted, exclamation mark. Darn it, darn it, darn it. And it's repeating the same word 3 times. The moment we repeat a word, obviously that's important. Of all the miserable luck. Ah! And can you see big, bold letters once again? And then he's just going on complaining. He says there must have been a cross breeze. I can't believe it. I saved that snowball for 3 whole months. Now, I want you to notice something. While Calvin is complaining, look at what Susie's doing. Very small, it's written scoop, scoop. So what she's doing, she's scooping up all the snow and she's making a new snowball. Right, here's another one for Jeremy. Let's look here. Jeremy, pick up your shoes. Jeremy, pick up your shoes. Jeremy, pick up your shoes. Okay, he says. Just because I'm not listening doesn't mean I can't hear you. I want you to notice the progression that's taking place here. First, we have a normal speech bubble. Next one, the word's getting bigger. Your shoes is more bold. And then the third one, it's big. It's bold. It's even in red to show you how angry she is. So I want you to notice little things like that. It's the little things that make the difference. And remember, everything in a cartoon, as in an advertisement, is there for a reason. So don't miss it. Now, something I'm sure you saw with Calvin and Susie, once again, is movement lines. Now, if you look in our first frame, you'll see they have movement lines to show how Calvin is literally taking that snowball all the way from the back of his head and he's literally throwing it. It's a big throw. If you thought that was a big one, look at Susie's throw. That's even bigger. But can you see how he's shown it to us? Can you see that line going all the way through the cartoon? That shows us with much strength, Susie has actually thrown this ball. Right. Now, as I said to you, our cartoonist can't include sound. So he has to find another way to include sound. So it's poor Jeremy once again. And now he has included what we call onomatopoeia. Onomatopoeia is words that imitate sound. Now look at this cartoon. Why does my stomach wait for the test to go full karaoke? And now look what his stomach is doing. Now those words are words that imitate sound. Now, obviously, when you and I read it, we laugh because it's funny, because we can just imagine these sounds. So make sure you focus on the sound effects in the cartoon. Now, one of the questions we love asking you is to show contrast between characters. And when you ask this kind of question, I need you to remember that when we compare things, you need to compare apples with apples. You can't compare apples and lemons. And it's the same here. So what do I mean compare the same thing? Well, it's easy. If you're looking at the eyes of a character 1, I need you to refer to the eyes of a character 2. So I need to see that comparison. Look at my picture here. Calvin's eyes are obviously closed. Susie's eyes are big, open and wide. Wide, not wild, wide. W-I-D-E. Please don't make that mistake, okay? If I'm looking at the mouth of character 1, of Calvin's mouth, Calvin's character is big, open, his teeth is showing. Susie? Her mouth is closed. So can you see what I need you to compare? Even the way what they're doing. In this frame, he's frustrating. She's sitting, she's doing nothing. So when you've got a contrast question, please make sure that you show me exactly the difference. Or the similarities for that matter. Okay, please don't forget. So another question we like to ask you, I'm giving you all the tips here, is how do you know a character is angry and frustrated? Now, we might refer you to the visual clues or the verbal clues. So let's focus on the visual clues here. And again, this is now where you have to tell me exactly what do you see. So you refer to me, let me quickly get this right. You're going to refer me to one, the facial expression. So focus me on detail. What do you see? His eyes are closed. His mouth is big open wide. He's leaning backwards. His hands is in front of his face. Can you see what I'm doing? I'm telling me the marker exactly what I'm seeing here. Right. Oh, this question. And it always pops up, doesn't it? Do you find the cartoon humorous? Now, humorous means funny. Do you find it funny? Now, sometimes you would think, no, I don't find it funny. No, it's not funny. Well, unfortunately, you have to pretend it is. Because usually it is funny. But if you don't find it funny, how am I going to answer a question if I don't find it funny? It's easy. Let me give you a recipe. You need to focus again on the connection between the pictures and the words. Remember, all the frames work up till that final frame. Your final frame is your most important frame. So you really need to focus on what's happening there. One way to show humor is through irony. And here's a brilliant example. It's again, these are Jeremy's parents. Will you ask him? This was your idea. You ask him. Fine. Jeremy, will you activate our new team tracker app for me, please? Is this some kind of irony test? They want to track Jeremy, but they don't know how the app works, so they have to ask Jeremy to get the app working for him. That's irony. You expect them, if they want to do this, to know how the app is going to work. But now they have to ask their son to help them to track him. Now, if you're using irony, remember it's the difference between what we expect and what actually happens. Right. So Jeremy's parents want to track him. You understand that? But they don't even know how to activate that. So when you're doing irony, you need to use that word but for me. I really need to see that contrast between the two. That is extremely important. If you forget everything I've said today, then just remember this. Irony, there's always a but. You need to show me what you expected and what exactly you got. Here's another one. Mom, can I have a laundry basket? Yes, yes, yes. And can you see again, there's a progression, small, bigger, bigger. She's obviously extremely excited that Jeremy, for the first time in his life, is going to put his laundry actually in a laundry basket. But is he going to use it as a laundry basket? No. He's on the roof. You can see he's on the roof with a laundry basket. My mom was surprisingly supportive for a change. I would aim for that bush. You can just imagine what's going to happen here. Now, we can ask you in the exam if you find this funny. And it is funny because obviously Jamie's not using the laundry basket for what it should be used. But you can also say, no, it's not funny. Because Jeremy can get really very hurt. I mean, if you're on a roof with a laundry basket, obviously you're going to get hurt. This is not funny, this is serious stuff. So if you can tell me it like that, we'll give you the marks. You just have to refer back to the text for me. Do you remember irony again? The but? Now, same here. Remember, I need that but. Really important. I brought you another one. I love Jeremy cartoons. So we've got, and look how now we're playing with sounds here. We've got bzz, 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 bzz. And that's obviously his phone ringing. You know when your phone's alarm goes off? And then a second one, the phone starts jumping up and down. It says beep, beep, beep. And then it says clap, clap, clap. Can you see the sounds getting all bigger and bigger and bigger? And now he's literally grabbing Jeremy and saying to wake up. And obviously, Jeremy's just keep on sleeping. How do you know he's keeping on sleeping? Because there's a little Z there. That Z indicates that he keeps on sleeping. And then in frame number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, what happens? The phone just gives up. He's like, look at that movement line, falling backwards, then it's done. And then last frame, remember everything works up to the last frame. It says, you're late. Sorry, my phone died. No, yeah, I'm sure the phone died because he had to do so much to get Jeremy awake and it didn't work. So, can you see how it works, the progression that these cartoonists use? They're absolutely brilliant cartoonists. Absolutely brilliant. So, just to remind you again, important tips. Before looking at the questions, look at your cartoon first. Analyze it for yourself, exactly like we've done. Go through it, recognize the setting, the characters, what's happening. Then you go and read the questions. Okay. If I ask you to refer to a specific frame, you have to make sure you refer to that frame only. Don't think you're going to be a wise one and refer to all the frames. Be very specific as to which one. Tell us everything. We can't see what you see. Right. Can you see how quickly you're moving? Remember, this is still part of section C. So we still have 40 minutes. We have to complete the advertisement, cartoon, and the language in our 40 minutes. So let's look at question 5 quickly. This part is divided in 2 parts. You're going to have a text and you're going to have a visual text. Now, looking at that, your first question is probably the horrible question. Correct the single error in each of the following sentences. So we're going to give you 3 to 4 sentences and there are errors in it and you need to identify them. And you just have to write down the question number and the correct word. So you fix the error first. Now, where do you start? Well, first of all, there's only one error. So don't try and find more than one. There's literally only one. Second one, you need to correct it for us. And thirdly, write down only the answer. If you decide to rewrite the whole sentence, you have to underline to show me this is where I changed it. So, best idea, just follow the instruction, just write down the answer. Easy as that. Now, I know you can't read it aloud, but in your mind, just read it for yourself. Sometimes you will hear it doesn't sound correct. But to assist you a little bit, I've got a checklist for you. Now, these are the things we always use. Spelling, apostrophe, concord. Concord is where your object and your verb doesn't always agree. Words that are often confused. Prepositions. Oh, we love prepositions. You know what a preposition is? I'm sure you do in grade 12. Tenses. The incorrect tense that's used. So, if you know this, let me just go back a little bit. Sorry, I just want to go back. Oh, no, I'm going way too fast. If you know this, so this is your little checklist that you can use. Let me just stop there. This is a checklist that you can use. So, we can't ask 3 spelling mistakes. We'll ask 1 spelling mistake. And then preposition mistake. So first start by reading the text, the lines, and hearing. Maybe you can find it like that. But look out for the apostrophe and things like that. It's always there. Something that's always there as well is active and passive voice. This is something you really need to study. We are going to ask you a sentence to change it into the active or in a passive voice, or vice versa. Yes, we can't ask you to go from passive voice to active voice. You must be able to do that. Now, when you do this, here's a few quick steps. Find your verb. Most important one. Find your verb, and this is where you highlight or underline. And then you find the subject and the object. Who's doing the verb? To whom is it being done? So if you've got your subject, you've got your object, what do? Easiest thing in the world, you swap places. And they literally just swap places. Your verb stays in the same place, and these two just swap places. Now, something that I need you to remember is when we do active and passive, the verb doesn't change tense. It stays the same. So if we look at, let me just quickly look at one for you. Let's do the present tense. He writes books. Books are written by him. We're staying in the present tense. We're not going to the past, we're staying where we are. He is writing books. Then books are being, there's my ing, being written. If we have has or have, he has written books. Books have been. Because we're not using an ing, we're going to use been. B-double-E-N. It's as easy as that. This is the easiest thing to do. So make sure you know how to do active and passive voice. Right. Yes, you have to study for a language part. Question tags. Question tags is always the end of your statement, and this actually means, is this true? Something you have to remember here is that we work with positives and negatives. You know, positive and negatives are traits. And this is the same here. So if you have a sentence, let's look at one. I love reading books. The I love is positive, and then your tag will be negative. Don't I? Or we can swap it around. I can say, I don't love reading books. Do I? So can you see there must be a positive and a negative? So find your verb, check whether it's positive or negative, and then do your tag at the end. Right, what do you have to remember? Sometimes we include the question mark at the end of a sentence. Sometimes we don't. Check out for that. Be very awake. Something else we love asking you, reported speech. So reported speech is like gossip. You telling someone else what that person has said in the past tense. And there are a number of things you have to remember. First thing, always remove all punctuation. Inverted commas, exclamation mark, question marks. The only thing that you need to keep is that little full stop at the end of a sentence. That's the most important thing because we actually look for that. So make it sure it's big, we can see it. Right, second thing, identify your pronouns because we need to change them. We're going to change them to he or she or they. And then next one, now we have to go one step into the past. Because remember, it's already been done. I am now telling somebody else what that person said. So my verb has to go one step into the past. And be careful, we've got time words as well that you have to look out for. For instance, yesterday becomes the day before, or tomorrow will be the next day. So be just on the lookout for those things. Combining sentences. This is one we love asking you as well. We will give you a conjunction. In other words, we will say either start with this or use the following conjunction. If we ask you to start with it, you have to start with it, obviously. So make sure you read the instructions very, very carefully. Now, when you do this, remember the two sentences will have words that are similar. Don't repeat the same words over and over again. That's what we want you to do. We want to see if you can let go of some words. Use the correct tense. You know, there's quite a number of rules there. I'm sure you know them. And remember to use that concord rule if it's applicable. All right. The apostrophe. Now remember, this is one that we love asking in errors as well. But if we don't ask it there, we're going to ask it somewhere as a question. Apostrophe shows a contraction. Do not becomes don't. In other words, we have left out a letter. Or it can mean that it belongs to someone. So you have to be quite careful. But we don't use it when we use in plural nouns, it's, whose, yours. You have to be careful for those ones. So please don't put an apostrophe in those. We only use it for a contraction and if it belongs to someone. If you're not feeling comfortable with an apostrophe, I would suggest you go and just revise it once again. So let's quickly run through these. Homophones. Homophone on a phone. It sounds the same, but it is spelled differently. Choose and choose sounds the same on the phone, but means something completely different, and we spell it differently. Whereas a homonym means something completely different once again. So homonyms is obviously the opposite. This is where we have one word, and that word is the same in spelling, but the meaning changes. So you must be able to recognize the difference, because how we usually ask this, we ask you, use the following word as a homophone in another sentence. Or use this word, the homonym of a word, in another sentence. So please make sure you know the difference. Okay, so homonyms have the rock. Can you see? It's the same word, but it has 3 different meanings. So that's homonyms. Right. Let's see what else we have here. We've got synonyms. We've been speaking about them quite a lot. We have antonyms, words that are opposite. I'm sure you know all of these. And words that are often confused. So if you can find in your textbook where you can study this, this is really important. Make sure you look at those ones as well. So we've got desert and dessert. Do you know the difference? It's just one little S there. Desert or dessert? Which one is which one? So make sure you know which one to use. Right. And now, before I'm going to go on, I'm going to take a short break. We take 2 minutes and then we'll be back focusing on the summary. So Hello and welcome back. We just had a short break and now we're going to discuss the rest of paper one, comprehension. I'm sure you might have a lot of questions. So if you have a question, please WhatsApp us at 064 748 8913 and we'll try and answer you. So when we started, we said we're going to start with a summary first and then we'll move on to section C. And now we're left with the comprehension. We've got 15 minutes to complete it for 30 marks. So let's run through your comprehension. So there are a few steps to read the text. Now remember what I asked you. Please make sure during the 10 minutes reading time that you read your comprehension, focusing on your title and your paragraphs. Then I need you to go to the questions. Read through your questions carefully so that you know what it's all about. Read your text once again. As you go on, you look at possible answers where they might be. And then you're ready to answer them. So let's go step by step to unlock how to read your comprehension. You're going to read your passage through your reading time. But while you're reading, I want you to focus on certain things. Look at the title. What does it mean? Does it have a literal and a figurative meaning? What is the text all about? What happens here? When does it take place? And you can even think for yourself, do I agree what is being said here by the writer? And then, final paragraph is just as important as the first paragraph. Remember, your first paragraph is your introduction. The last paragraph is as important because this will give you a very good idea as why this text was written in the first place. So make sure you focus on that. So let's go on to the next step. Now we look at the questions. Now when you look at the questions, please first figure out which questions are easy for you to answer. And which ones do you think is going to be a bit more tricky? Which ones want your opinion? So those are the questions with do you agree or discuss? I really need you to unpack your questions, meaning take your highlighter or your pen and really work with those questions. Underline the question word and encircle what they want you to do. If you can focus on that, you won't get it wrong. I promise you. Step number 3. Now we're reading it again. So we read it once, we went to the questions, now we're reading it for the third time. Now I need you to make notes as you go on. Remember, you know now what the questions are. So you are now able to pick up where that possible answer might be. So while you're reading and you're seeing a possible answer, make a note for yourself and say, this might be the answer to question number 1 or question number 2. That's really important. If you find a word that you're not familiar with, what I need you to do is just underline it, and I need you to use clues all around to see if you can figure out the meaning of that word. Look out for joining words. Sometimes words are used to show contrast or to link paragraphs. I need you to focus on them because then obviously those paragraphs are linked together or are in contrast to each other. After this, are you able to find the main idea of every paragraph? I'm sure you know exactly what it's all about. So you have enough time. So please use your time and to go through all these steps. Now we're ready to answer the questions. Now your questions will start at the beginning of a text and move chronologically further. We will refer you to a specific paragraph or a specific line. Please make sure you go to that. It's really important that if it's a paragraph, you reread the whole paragraph. And if it's a sentence, please make sure you know what it means. Mark allocation is crucial. That tells you how much you need to write. Do I only have 2 facts? Or is it a discussion? Do I need to give more information? So make sure you look at the mark allocation. Remember, it's usually 1 fact for 1 mark. So I'm going to help you, and we can go through specific questions that are usually asked and how to answer them. First question, why is the following statement false? Now, can you see what I've done? I've highlighted the why. What do they want? They want to know why is it false. So you have to give me evidence to tell me why the statement is not true. Now, it might be asked to quote, but you also might not be asked to quote. You have to read your instructions very carefully. If you are asked to quote, you're welcome. Otherwise, you're not allowed to. But let's pretend you have been asked to quote. If you are asked to quote a number of words to prove that the statement is false, then you have to use your inverted commas. Usually, we will limit you to a certain number of words, 3, 5 words. Now, we will use the word consecutive. Consecutive means one after the other. So if you choose 5 words, they must follow each other in the line, one after the other, and stick to the number of words we give you. Right. Another question we love asking you is to state 2 points or give 2 points or state 2 ways. When you get a question like this, it's quite clear that I want 1 fact and another. And always make sure that you write in full sentences. I want 2 very specific facts. But be careful. If I ask you to list in 2 ways, then it's completely different. In this case, I want you to write it underneath each other. Can you see the difference? Where I just ask you to state or to give 2 facts, you're going to give me 2 different points. But if I ask you to list, you're going to write it underneath each other. A multiple choice question. You'll be given 4 options. Now, the easiest thing is to eliminate or delete the ones that don't fit. Remember, there will always be one that's completely outrageous and doesn't fit. And then there will be others that are quite close to the answer. Go through all 4 of them and eliminate the one you think doesn't fit until you get to the right one. If you're asked to illustrate, that's when you have to give me an example. Illustrate doesn't mean draw me a picture. So make sure you explain it for me. Compare. Now, when we compare, we focus on similarities as well as the differences. And remember what I said when we did the cartoon. You need to compare the same things with each other. You can't compare apples and lemons. You need to compare the same things. Otherwise, it's not a comparison. If we ask you to describe something, we want to know what it is like. Now again, especially if it's in the cartoon, give me detail as much as you can. Now we're going to a little more trickier questions. So if we give you explain in your own words or use your own word or suggest reasons for including, then how am I supposed to do this? So this is a bit more difficult. Go back to the text. Always go back to your text. Don't try to answer it out of your head. The answer is in the text. You just have to find it. Read very carefully. And then do not use the writer's words directly. You need to rewrite them in your own words, but be careful. You can't change the meaning of a sentence or the paragraph. So you have to be quite careful about that. And give me evidence, give me proof to say why something is such a way. That's how we explain. Most important, in these kind of questions, I need full sentences. Well, we always like full sentences, but these specifically, you need to write in full sentences. You can't just write only a word and think you're going to get away with it. It's not going to work. Another question that we often ask is for you to discuss something. We can ask you whether the last paragraph is a good conclusion to the text, or whether the title is suitable. If you get a question like this, you have to explain to me what the title is, what is the text all about, and how does the two connect. If we ask you if you agree with the writer's opinion, remember you have to use, yes, you're right, the Peel method. I will explain it just now. Now, we're going to use a word that you might not be familiar with. It's substantiate. When we ask you to substantiate something, it means give us reasons. Enough reasons to cover the mock allocation. So substantiate, don't stress, means just give us a lot of reasons. Now, let's go back to that Peel method. All these questions I've shown you use one method, and that is the Peel method. Now, how am I supposed to do that? The first thing you need to tell me is whether you agree or you don't agree. That's step number one. Step number two is you have to explain to me why you chose this side. And then you need to give an example from the text to prove your point. And lastly, you have to make sure I understand. So just link it back to your question. Point, explain, example, and link. Yes, it's called the Peel method. And I brought with you a few bananas to show you. So the first one is the point. Make your point. It's like being in a courtroom. This is the opening statement where you state whether you agree or not. Okay. Then we go on to give an example. This is really where you need to give it up. You need to show the reader that you know exactly what it means. And you need to explain yourself. Why is this important? Now you can see, you can either swap example or explain. You can first start with the explain and then the example, or you can start with the example and then explain. And then lastly, link it. In other words, show us how everything fits together. Tie up all your knots so that you have a brilliant paragraph. If you use our Peel method, you're going to get brilliant marks, I promise you. Even use it in your literature, please, too, as well. Now, besides the comprehension, you're going to have a visual text, a text being. And that can be an advertisement, a cartoon, a graph. We don't know what they're going to give you. But whatever it is, you'll be able to handle it. Now, let's look at it. Again, before you touch those questions, look at it carefully. And I need you to ask yourself these questions. What kind of text is it? Because a graph is different from a cartoon, obviously. And what kind of information is it showing me? So you really need to look at it very carefully. Does it include pictures and words? And the moment there are pictures and words, you know what we're going to look for. What is the connection? Yes, you see, you're getting it. Well done. And the other thing I need you to do then is to obviously look at the words, link them to the picture. Then look at the words in the heading and below. So you have to make sure that you cover all the words in the text because words might be all over the place. Look at the picture again. And then I need you to think, how does the picture support the words? Can you see I need those connection between the pictures and the words? It's really important. And lastly, read your questions and answer them. Now remember, there's no connection between your text speed and your comprehension. So you don't have to try and find one. We've got a few last tips for you. Use your time wisely. You have enough time. Read your question. What do you need to do? Look at the marks allocation to make sure you have written enough. You don't want to come up empty. And when you've done everything, you need to go back for me. And probably this is the most important part. If there is a little bit time left, go back. Make sure you've answered all the questions. Remember, we said you can start with the summary phase. And when you do your booklet, you don't have to leave space open for the comprehension. You can start immediately with the summary. The marker will find every text. And I promise you, they will mark everything. And they will double check that everything is marked. So if you have time left, please go back. Take the time up to 11 o'clock. Don't sit there and wait for time to go past. Go back, go through your whole paper. Check, have I answered all the questions? We found many times in the exam that learners forget to answer that 6 marks on the section B after the comprehension, that little visual. Don't forget about it. So make sure, have I answered every single question? Have I numbered correctly? Sometimes you get flustered and you use the wrong number for the right answer. Then we can't mark it. So double check every answer is the correctly numbered. Remember your summary? Remember what I said to you? Use the instruction list as a checklist to check you have followed all the instructions. And then very important, are you happy with what you've done? I really want you to think back and say, yes, I have done everything I could. I haven't left open a question. You can't leave open a question. If you don't know, you try. But you never leave open a question. Ever. Ever. Do you hear me? Really important. And what you really want to say to yourself, I've done this. I've answered everything I can. Remember, this will probably be the last paper, English fall paper 1 that you're ever going to write. So make sure it's a good one. I've got a few last words for you before your big exam on Monday. And this isn't only for your English, but for every subject that you might be writing. I hope that you remember everything. I hope that you forget nothing. I hope you never suffer from self-doubt. I hope your luck never runs out. I hope that you achieve perfection. I hope that your results call for a celebration. Good luck. I wish you all of the very best. Study hard. You can do this. We believe in you.